This Fed Gov Today program is sponsored by Maximus. Welcome back. The General Services Administration will become the home of just about all acquisition activity in the federal government under an executive order from the White House. The EO says GSA will be responsible for buying, quote, common goods and services for the rest of the government. Crystal Philcox is former Assistant Commissioner of the Federal Acquisition Service at GSA. Roger Waldron's president of the Coalition for Common Sense in Government Procurement, former acting Deputy Chief Acquisition Officer at GSA. Friends, welcome. It's great to have both of you here. Roger, that phrase, common goods and services, is in the EO 3 or 4 different times. It strikes me that's important. Am I reading it right, or am I missing something?
Oh, it does, Francis. First of all, thanks for having me back on the show. It does set the framework for GSA's responsibilities. And there are the 10 categories and category management, but I like to think of it as think about what's on the GSA schedules program, right? It's common services, products, commodities, MRO, IT, a little bit of everything. If you think about the schedules program and what it provides to customer agencies across the federal government, when I think of common, goods and services, that's what I think of.
What was your reaction when you read this EO, Crystal, about what it might mean for Federal Acquisition Service inside GSA, your former organization, more broadly for the agency, bandwidth-wise and so on, and also for the agencies that are already GSA customers and for those that may be trying to do things on their own and aren't supposed to anymore?
Yeah, those 10 common categories were really, GSA managed pretty much 7 of those already. And so as an agency, right, if I'm looking at how I'm going to start to move my acquisition into GSA, I'm looking at, okay, what are those things that are purchases that I make that are part of those categories versus maybe some things that might be unique that I'm purchasing in my agency that wouldn't be necessarily common goods and services. And so in about a month, they're supposed to get back to GSA having identified that.
Mm-hmm. What do you advise people within the agencies to look at when they're doing that? Is it really just as simple as, can we buy this from, do we need to do this ourselves, or can we let GSA do this, or is there more to it than that, do you think, Crystal?
I think there's a little more to it than that. You're actually going to have to transfer contracts over and find folks to manage those contracts over in GSA. And so as an agency, I'm looking at are there things that aren't really part of those common categories? And most of those are in DoD, mm-hmm. and would be weapon systems and that sort of thing. But there may be some unique things in agencies that they want to keep inside.
What's your sense of what this means for the vendors, Roger?
Well, obviously vendors have to pay close attention to all the changes, how things evolve over time. I think there's opportunity. This could be very transformative of procurement in general. And I like to think about President Trump's executive order on the consolidation to GSA and pair that with the president's executive order on the FAR rewrite. So the streamlining, the opportunity to streamline and focus on contract vehicles that are government-wide at GSA can reduce barriers to entry for government contractors. It will deliver greater efficiencies in terms of compliance requirements and also just access to the market over time. So there's a great opportunity here. Contractors really have to pay attention to GSA. And not that they weren't before, right, but even now. And GSA, that executive order on the FAR rewrite, charges agencies actually to also look at their supplemental regulations. And there's supplemental regulations that govern the multiple award schedules program that GSA has the opportunity to streamline, reform, and commercial item contracting in general, reducing clauses, applicability. We've talked about that before, Francis, on the show.
Many times.
Yeah, there's the power and simplicity and reducing the regulatory burden and concentrating that through GSA could be transformative.
Crystal, what do you expect the Federal Acquisition Service to have to do to ramp up to accommodate all of this volume that they're about to take on?
Yeah, they are going to have a lot of volume coming in, right? And so if I'm GSA, I'm thinking, you know, where do I do this? How do I do this? They have an assisted acquisition service, but those folks are really kind of those acquisition ninjas, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are doing the most the most complicated buys, the highest dollar buys, and so there wasn't really a place inside GSA to handle this. So they are likely thinking, okay, how do I create a space, either in an existing organization or new, that will help me bring all of this new work in? And we know that there are about 4 agencies that they're starting with, and GSA is great at test and learn, right? They do pilots all the time. So so they'll start to take a look at the work that's coming in. They'll figure out their processes, their procedures. They'll develop templates. They'll get that down really solid before they start to get a bunch of other agencies coming in, and hopefully they'll have the staff to just grow from there.
I'll ask you first, but I'm curious for your input on this too, Roger. Are there opportunities for automation or for tools that, like the marketplaces that GSA has already tested, to expand some of those to make buying a lot easier for these agencies without them having to replicate, move, and so on?
There certainly is, right? There's plenty of opportunity for technology, new technology to come in, and to expand some of the marketplaces that they currently have. So I think we'll see that, and you know, as a vendor, you probably should be watching very carefully where things are going to start to land, right? And how things are going to work out. The new technology, along with the FAR regulations and the focus on commercial buying, all of that is going to be complicated for a little while, but it should, as that smooths out, really be able to expand the ease and reduce burden for
There's a nugget there I want to come back to, but Roger, your thoughts on automation and some of the tools like the marketplace that already exist?
Well, the government is already using artificial intelligence in the evaluation of proposals, even in writing RFPs in some cases. And on the flip side, contractors are using artificial intelligence to support their proposal development and that sort of thing. So that's already going on. Here, you know, with GSA and the consolidation there's an opportunity as it reorientates itself to take all this on, to identify opportunities to make investments in systems to create greater efficiencies. And along with that, like one of the things that I think would be very helpful is consolidating, for example, the schedules program, $50 billion annually just through GSA. You know, it's been separated in 3 different divisions within the Federal Acquisition Service. You know, that program, and that's something, you know, our member companies have always said, hey, it should be one program and managed through, you know, one office, you know, to increase accountability, efficiency, and to identify those investments and systems that need to be made to make the program run more efficiently. There's a great opportunity there as well.
The nugget I wanted to come back to, Crystal, is we've talked about a lot of individual pieces in this conversation so far. The FAR rewrite, Roger just mentioned schedules, consolidation, and so on. Is it a good idea, do you think, to take this on all at once, or is it maybe necessary to do it all at once, and so that it all sorts out in the way that the administration is saying they want it to sort out?
You know, I think it's certainly going to introduce some risk to do that. It's not the most ideal way to do change management, but it is the opportunity to do it right now. And so, you know, I think that GSA will be looking at all of these changes coming in, and they'll be looking at procedures and templates, and also really just you know, not just the consolidation of the work, but potentially the consolidation of contracts, right? The EO leans into that a little bit, and so they'll be thinking through all of those things at the same time, and coming up with a landing spot and working toward that.
Roger, thoughts? We have about 30 seconds left.
So real quickly, this is the time. The focus on acquisition reform from the President's executive orders, there's about 4 of them covering defense, you know, OTAs, commercial solutions, GSA, the FAR rewrite, and also the appetite on the Hill, the Forged Act, the opportunity now. People recognize that we have to change how our procurement system operates. We have near-peer adversaries who don't have to worry about the federal acquisition regulation, for example. We have to be more nimble, more responsive, and be able to tap into the market to get the technologies we need.
Roger, it's great to have you on the program. Crystal, thanks also for joining me. I appreciate it. You can read more